Since the chairman and vice chairman aren't here tonight, there's two ways. You all could select one of yourself to run the meeting, or as staff person, I'll conduct the meeting for you, whichever way you all want to do it.
I'd motion that he can conduct the meeting for us.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, so we call the meeting to order. We don't have any public here for public comments. And I believe Justin sent out, and you can take this off when you talk if you want to. It's not a little easy for everybody to understand you. Minutes of the February 24th meeting, did you all get a chance to review those?
Yes.
Yes. Make a motion to approve.
Second?
And are you going to take minutes for notes?
Yes.
So we do minutes. If you call the roll of the four members are here,
Okay.
so they can vote.
Right now? Okay.
Yes.
Rebecca Pittman? Are you here?
Yes.
Okay. And Sean Davis?
Yes.
And Bob Moses?
Yes.
And Josh Schramm?
Here.
And they passed unanimously. Next item of business is discussion possible action regarding the contract between Lazy Arena and City of Guthrie. And I believe Justin sent you all the contract
Yes.
and some comments. Discussion on the contract before we entertain some kind of action.
Notice the term of this is October 1st of 19 to September 30th of 20.
And it had to be, for a re-up, it needed to be, any negotiations need to be finished by August 1st. So I think that's why we're seeing it now.
But it doesn't look like we paid any money for that new contract as of this time.
I have not looked at the expenditures to see. I know that for various reasons, the cycle got out of whack. And so,
Exhibit B shows that payments were made October 1st of 18 and January, April, and July 1st of 19, so there's been no payments made, it looks like, since July 1st of 19, if I'm reading this correctly.
okay. So we will have to catch up on those if it's a current year contract.
I asked what the problem was, and why we only have 9 months have gone by, we only got 3 months left until we're gonna go through this again. What was the problem? Or have we been doing the same things without a contract, or what's the situation?
I would assume if we've been doing it, the contract's been signed. I've not reviewed all that, and it's Justin's area, so I have to apologize, but I would assume it's been done in good faith until the contract's been approved.
Brother, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe I remember Justin speaking to this in our last meeting, that due to the turnaround, people coming in and out at the Lazy E, they've had a few marketing people come in and out of that position, and I think some other changes which delayed getting the contract back to us. But everything was being executed under the good faith, but because of the changes there, it was delayed. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think I can recall him saying, I probably don't have a note of it, that he said we need to talk about this, and so it was, the ball was in there, back and forth in different courts, and didn't get a meeting as such.
So my question is, are we going to prorate this current contract? We say we're gonna catch up on the payments, but we're not getting anything for the money since everything's been canceled.
Well, we won't if they acted in good faith and provided all the services throughout the year. Why would we prorate it?
Well, I understand, but like a lot of these events are already canceled, right?
They
like the
canceled
ones
a
in
few,
March and everything, that's what I'm talking about. All the events that were supposed to happen have been canceled up to this point. Now, this contract, you know, is including those events that have not come to Guthrie because they were canceled. This is act of God, I understand, but at the end of the day, the hotel, nobody came.
We did not get benefit of
We
it.
benefited absolutely nothing about it.
If you'll read in there, it talks about that very thing. It's an act of God, it doesn't void the contract.
And I think there was, if any, there
I
was
didn't
2 or
see that
3
part.
events that were canceled.
But
Yeah,
also-
there were a few events that
But
were.
not all of them, for sure.
But you also remember that they've added the National High School Rodeo Association Championship, which is a week-long event. They have added some PBR events, so they have added events.
Dog show.
Yeah,
This coming weekend.
so they've added some things as well.
They
But
added,
we're not benefiting because there's no public there. We're-
That's what I'm saying, though, well, one, for the dog show coming up, for instance, in 2 weeks, there will be public there. I would argue that the people being in attendance, participating or competing in any of these events, add value in the sense of exposure. And personally, I don't see the upside of going after a local partner and saying, hey, you need to prorate us because a pandemic occurred that you had no control over, but darn it, we want our money back. I don't see how that is a win for tourism, for the city, or for building a healthy relationship with the Lazy moving forward.
It's number 5,
It's down
the act of God thing.
Thank you.
Force majeure?
I'm going to back it up.
Yeah, but not by implementation.
Okay, so, but I mean, this is another, you know, another question. We've already committed all this money. For example, we canceled the 4th of July celebration. That was $5,000 that we committed to a celebration we're not going to have now.
it's
And
September
we're,
5th.
what's that?
It'll be September 5th. They've postponed the fireworks
Got rescheduled.
and a Frederick Knight's concert to all be on September 5th.
Is that Labor Day weekend?
Yeah.
That's good.
And there'll be Redneck Nights as well.
Right, a concert that night
Yeah.
at Frederick Knight's. Kind of make up for a summer that didn't.
Quite pan out as we all thought it would.
But
Is it possible now, we're really, it's going to be retroactive back, but we're really looking at a 3-month contract. Is it possible to not go through this again and make it a 15-month contract? Or does that screw up the city because of the fiscal years?
You could do go ahead and approve the whole next year if you want, but no, I don't think we want to get a partial, or then you'd come back with a 9-month contract.
Well, you wouldn't. September to October 1st is 12 months, and there's 3 months till, and that's 15. You'd be on the cycle
Right.
the next year.
But this contract covers a 12-month period. It
That
was
they've
in
been
good faith.
executing on. That's what I'm confused about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to the events, and I know Verla has been to the events with the table and engaged with people, and the board has had, members of the board have had an opportunity to represent tourism and go to those events, so, I mean, I think just because we're seeing this right now, there's no representation of what work has or hasn't been done. They've been executing this since October.
Well, and we haven't paid him the way it looks, if this is.
Right, but I think we weren't paying because he hadn't gotten a contract, from my understanding was the issue.
I hear that.
Which he shouldn't pay anyone without a contract, in my opinion, so
Well,
I would applaud him in that.
I agree with that, I
Yeah.
just.
So Bob, what I hear, I'm sorry, I just comment, that what you're trying, and we talked on this a little bit, as far as you're saying, can we handle this tonight
Yeah,
in
just
relation
take care
to
of it.
next year?
If we're gonna do the same thing next year,
In 3 months.
in 3 months. But I guess what you're saying is,
I was gonna say,
making it retroactive, you're gonna say it's from October 1st of 19 to September 30th of 20, and then it'll go October 1st of 20 to September 30th of 21 is what we're gonna be talking about in probably 2 months. I think it's kind of better to start before it's due rather than after.
And I think that that's probably, I mean, as I read this, parties agree and understand that any extension of this agreement beyond its original term must be negotiated and agreed upon by both parties prior to August 1st, 2020. So as I read it, that is exactly what we should be doing, is, you know, obviously agreeing with this and agreeing that, hey, we're gonna go ahead and extend this until September 2021, I mean, right, September 2021.
The only thing is you're outside of our budget year if you do that. Because our new budget won't start till October 1. And you'll be approving expending money out of next year's budget.
That we won't have yet.
Correct.
And you
Well, can't do that then.
You can't do that in the city,
Yeah.
I think they'll love it.
but they do it.
All right, well,
I think it's cleaner, just go ahead and do this one and come back with a second one, even though it will be coming back pretty quick.
Right.
But that's just my opinion.
Merle, I have a question. What advertising does the city do with the Lazy E as far as the city independently using the Lazy E's intellectual property? Like, what do we actually do? Like, for our side, like it says in the contract, the city has, exclusive right to use the Lazy E's, everything to promote the city. What exactly does the city do on our side of that contract?
on our side, yeah, it's in there as far as, as far as participating.
What does the city do? Like, how do we advertise the Lazy E as a benefit to Guthrie, as the city of Guthrie? You see what I'm saying? So like the Lazy,
not how does Lazy E utilize Guthrie, how do they expose?
how is the city utilizing its ability to use the Lazy E?
Do we do it in our advertising with an emblem or their symbol or whatever?
But what do we do on an ongoing basis?
Yeah.
What are we actually getting by being able to, because the Lazy E is using the city of Guthrie, right? They use the city of Guthrie as a place to say, and it says in here that the city can use the Lazy E, right? And their emblems and their logos and everything to promote the city. So what is the city doing to use that emblem? Like, what are we currently doing? What have we done to say, this is Guthrie and we have the use of the Lazy E for any and all events? Like to try to attract out more than what's already going on there, more events to the center. Does that make sense?
I know what you're saying.
It's a little complicated to me and maybe beyond where I haven't really studied this per se, but, I know that it's back and forth as far as what the, as far as the signage that's out there, the Jumbotron things and
That's out there.
announcements.
Yeah, no, but that's
How do we utilize this for the benefit of Guthrie?
Yes. Okay, I'm not concerned at all of what happens out there.
Oh,
Right, everything that's out there is
They're
that
saying,
is
how
their
are
half
we-
of the contract. I'm talking about our side.
Do we say like home of the Lazy E, like you see on promotions that
Right.
some famous football player, baseball players,
Yeah.
it's home of Bill Jones?
I can tell you it's not directly related to tourism, but when we try to recruit retail to Guthrie and go to retail trade shows, in addition to our population and the traffic counts on I-35, we list on our data sheet the special events like Red Brick Nights and the concert, but then we specifically list Lazy Arena separately because they bring over 400,000 participants a year. So we do use them when we're trying to recruit retailers to let them know that it's not just the highway traffic and the residents within 15 miles of the city limits, but we also have a unique
entertainment facility that brings 400,000 people to town. So we do use it that way as far as promoting to recruit retailers to our community.
Is there any way that we have, now I can see the hotel, motel because of the, if there's an event, and you can tell by the previous year or the previous date if their occupancy is up, because it's gonna be in their, the tax that they pay, the hotel motel tax. Is there any way to gauge or measure what, when we have a lazy event, if it affects the merchants in Guthrie, that their sales are up or anything like that
So,
through sales tax?
in our last chamber meeting, that was kind of what we were talking about, is how do we better, not chamber meeting, sorry, in CVP meeting, was how do we increase and attract more of that? Because what we weren't getting was we weren't getting that engagement from the people who are attending their shows directly into our downtown area. So that became the majority of that conversation, and that prompted some more meetings with that Verla and Justin had, and I think has prompted this getting executed appropriately. Without this, I think it's hard to move forward, to come up with better plans of how to attract them or engage with them. In Justin's notes, at the end of this document, you'll see some of what he talked about. Like, there was this idea that we threw around about doing a drive-in movie and food truck event to coincide with Little Britches, and utilizing the drive-in movie theater. We threw around some ideas of doing like street festivals in conjunction with some of the big, like doing a Guthrie welcomes, the National High School Finals Rodeo type of thing, where we shut down Main Street, we have food trucks and some bands, and create an opportunity for engagement with the community.
So, I know I really don't have any input here, but I wanted to say something. We've got that, you guys are looking at ways to capitalize on the lazy E. You were talking about it just a minute ago, that's what you're talking about right now. And I remember discussions that we've had in here in the past on that very topic. The smaller banners, the poly, whatever they're called,
Chloroplast?
yeah, chloroplast, that's what. Can we not take those and use those to advertise events we've got here during their events?
You're saying switch them out?
Yeah, we could have more than just one. We don't have to use theirs.
Right.
We can make our own, the same size, take theirs down, put this one up instead. That's
Right.
advertising the event in Guthrie that same weekend,
For the next weekend or whatever, yeah.
Whatever. I would
Yeah.
think if it coincided with the event they're having now, you might get them to come on to town.
Right.
And then we get to capitalize a little bit more on that. But that was just an idea that popped in my head, so I thought I'd mention it.
I know that we're upgrading the electric service to the campgrounds in Cottonwood Flats.
Yes.
The high school rodeo championship will have 300 campers, if I understand correctly, down in the flats. Well, that's going to mean those are 300 people that will be going through town every day as they go down to the rodeo.
Now we're just gotta convince some restaurants to stay open long enough for when they get done with the rodeo, they got somewhere to eat.
In this particular case, I understand the high school championship, they only compete 2 hours a day.
Right.
So the rest of the time, they're going to be in town.
Hanging out.
Yeah, and we've had some moms and grandmas call us about that. They said these kids like to go all over the town and make it theirs, and 99.5% of them are great kids. There might be a little bit of orneriness, but they like to be part of the town, and so there's gonna be families in town a lot
That's great.
during that 7 days.
And
What, Little Britches, we normally have what, like 50 people
It's growing. The amount.
use the flats, like 50?
Yeah, they didn't promote it as much as they thought they would from last year.
Mhm.
There'll still be a small group, it won't be the 300 that we'll have the
Right.
high school group.
Well, I think that's a gigantic win. I mean, obviously, having that many people come into town. Hopefully we can figure out a way to do something. If they're saying, hey, our kids are looking for something, our kids are, you know, I think when an event like that falls into your lap and it wasn't expected, you know, now you've got this, you got a free at bat to try to win it forever. And that's kind of, I think, how we should be looking at it as a city, and how the Lazy E should be looking at it, is how do we execute this event and support the participants in a way that they go back to the people and say, hey, you know what, forget about Nebraska. I wanna,
We have a great time here.
right, we should really look at how do we do this at the Lazy E every year. And I think that those are the really, you know, the ones that don't have multi-year contracts in place already, those are the ones that we need to look at and say, hey, Lazy E, how can we support you in making sure that you get this for a long time?
And we've invited during the National High School Finals, the Lieutenant Governor and the Department of Tourism to come up and promote not only Guthrie, but tourism opportunities throughout Oklahoma.
Okay.
Because hopefully, if we introduce Guthrie and Oklahoma to new individuals who have not been here before, hopefully we can entice them when they plan vacations, maybe to come back. Not just that event, but to come back when they plan vacations.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot of people coming to town. I mean, at least there's 3 Airbnbs on my street, and every one of them is booked until, I think, one of them doesn't have an open date until August, another one doesn't have an open date until October. I don't know who all these people are, but they sure like the Airbnbs on my street.
You on Warner?
Huh?
You on Warner?
On South First.
Additional discussion, or are we ready to,
I have 2 questions. One, it says in the agreement that the city will be granted tickets and VIP parking passes. How are we going to distribute those? How are we going to decide who gets to use those tickets for those events?
staff normally does that based on how we think it's best to promote and who to give them to. So that's normally a staff decision.
Like the lieutenant governor or whoever.
Correct.
Okay, so there's like a sign-up sheet, or there's a list, or is it random, or is it just a lot, or do people just send emails?
We just make a decision. That's not something we typically let the board decide who to use those tickets for.
Do you use it for, use the lieutenant governor, like, to lure people in, or what?
Well, sure, I mean, anytime we get lieutenant governors in town, it's very of interest, but I don't know exactly who all Justin gives tickets to, but we leave that up to Justin.
We've had them available before and let the board know. I think Josh, of course you used them because you were a volunteer. And the mayor used them when he went to go out to do the presentation and be there also. Those are the ones in my memory, so I can't tell you which. They have so many events that are there that aren't ticketed that it's interesting that those events attract people that are in that genre of, the rodeo, that type of thing, but there's not that many where it's not every event, that's what I'm trying to say, not every event has tickets to give away. So, but I can find out which ones they were that we did.
Right. No, what I'm saying is, well, it looks like an extra opportunity to use that to attract other people, because I'm pretty sure the mayor rates maybe a complimentary ticket. The lieutenant governor doesn't have to ask for a ticket. You see what I'm saying? Those kinds of things. We've got, it's just it's a perk, and also because I think there's got to be something, because it is being supported by tax dollars. That's a benefit that is being granted back to the people of the city of Guthrie through the usage and spending of tax dollars. Therefore, those tickets need to be accounted for in some kind, it has to be captured how they were dispersed. You don't just get to.
We will ask Justin in the future.
I understand,
to keep a
but that's what I'm saying.
I
That's what
think
I'm
that
saying.
makes sense.
In the contract, that's what I'm saying, in the contract, we've got
to that
X
detail
number of
level where
tickets.
This
got
board
tickets.
has been interested in who we give tickets to promote an event.
Well,
If
I
that's the
understand.
case, if you'll make a note, we'll have Justin. I don't get tickets, so
But how do we do it? This is a question. I mean, you watch the dollars, watch the pennies, the dollars take care of themselves.
well, not how we do it, but who we give them to. And then
Sure.
that way it'll be public information. So in the future, when we hand out tickets, let's just keep a list.
Right, well, because what I'm saying is these tickets, if we start doing a little bit of math, these tickets go for how much approximately? $20 a piece?
About that.
Okay, so what's a VIP parking pass, $25?
I haven't had to pay for
4
it,
tickets
so I don't
times
know.
5 events times 25 times 25 comes up to a couple $1,000.
We get a VIP parking pass.
With certain events, the one in January we
So
did, because they wanted
It's
to
not an
limit
insignificant
parking.
amount of money.
No, it's not.
Staff notes, and I was looking at the staff notes, are we gonna address, there's something here that he wrote down that I was curious about.
Mhm. That's why he printed them so we could have them here.
Hotel revenue is down, the last point, even so, there should be enough fund balance that has rolled over from previous years for us to meet budget obligations.
It's a different topic. Can we address this topic first and then go to your?
Oh, exactly, I thought we just did.
Well, we haven't voted
We haven't
yet.
finished on this.
Oh, okay, I didn't know I had to vote it. It was just a discussion point.
Are we ready to make a motion and vote on the,
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve.
I second that.
roll? Do you want to call the roll?
Yes. Okay, and there's been a motion and a second, so Bob Moses, your vote,
Yes.
Josh Patton,
Yes.
Sean Davis,
Yes, ma'am.
Rebecca Pittman.
Yes.
So it passes unanimously, so we will sign that. Staff comments, since Justin's not here. We won't have any staff comments other than what he passed out or sent to you all. And then board comments, now we can, if you have comments on.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry. Just the last note here is, it's worded interestingly. We've been able to save money from previous years for just such an emergency. Like this whole last point as far as rolling over budget money. I remember going, when we, like last year when we went through the budget for like 4 years, there was never any line item that had rainy day fund, okay? Which is exactly what this is alluding to. And we're already projecting a shortfall where we're going to have to look at at just such an emergency. I'm sorry, I don't understand we saw the budgets for the last 5 or 10 years and there was no line item that said we have a rollover fund for just this event. Do we know what he's talking about here?
More than likely, we may consider moving some money from the general fund to the Convention and Visitors Bureau Fund this year, because once we forecast hotel, motel, tax revenue, it may not be enough to do what we want to do in next year's budget. I've not seen the numbers for motel tax the last few months. I keep up with sales tax and use tax more. But when we, in the next few weeks, we will be projecting our revenue stream for next year and we'll be looking at that. There is a possibility that we will have to propose moving some money from the general fund over to this activity. And we do have a rainy day fund in the general fund.
Okay.
Is it possible, since we get no financial report except after we approve the budget apparently, that there would be an ongoing financial report each month that shows the budget and how much is left in the budget for the remaining months in the fiscal year?
Well, I would say that's a little bit of a moot point since we've, I think it's
I'm saying
because,
going on,
Right, but
going
even-
forward.
but even going forward, we've already, the last time, we already said that we're going to front load all of the spending in 1 month, in one meeting, and then everything gets approved for the entire budget year. So there is no ongoing budget to keep track of.
It's already spent.
It's already spent, like, exactly like we did this time. Everybody comes in, and then they present their case, and then we vote on it at the next meeting, and everything is approved for, that's what we did, that's what we changed the policy, we all voted on it.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so there is no ongoing money to keep track of, because it's all accounted, well, I say, what's the word, apportioned before being spent. It's previously apportioned in like November-ish. I can't remember when we did it last.
Obligated.
I have a question. So, like how you said, we approved 89ers and all that, but none of that happened.
That
So
is
what
still
happens
in
to
a
all that?
state of flux because some things are being rescheduled and some aren't. And we don't know where 89ers is. I don't know that they've made a final decision whether they're going to try to have an event this year,
So do they just return the money if they don't have the event, or?
I don't know that we paid their money out.
No.
So that could be your rainy day fund.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we've got, well, when we start to look at all the things that we apportioned money for this last year, but we haven't cut the checks because it hasn't happened, we've got, this is June, January, February, or June, July, August, September, right, to October. We got 4 months, they've got 4 months to let us know if it's actually, if it's going to happen. And if not, then we have a fiscal year of money that we need to account for. A full fiscal year, and like, it's like, that was what, $25,600 approximately?
The 89ers?
No, the entire CBB budget.
Okay.
Last year, the entire CBB budget was spent in one meeting. And that's what I'm saying is,
It's approved, but
it's
it's not spent
approved,
until
it hasn't
they,
been spent, the
until they
checks haven't been
request.
cut, so technically the money's still there.
Yes. Did
And
the
then-
event happen?
Now we have 4 months to decide, we need these organizations to let us know, are they going to hold their events in the next 4 months before the end of the fiscal year? Because if not, then
Then you do have a rainy day.
then we do have a rainy day fund. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
That was our rainy day fund.
Yeah, I was thinking all that, I just didn't say it properly, I'm sorry. It's
The
just,
fireworks, we approved the expenditure of the fireworks fund because it was for insurance, and it saved money by going ahead and buying the insurance. And that insurance is good for an event anytime in the next 12 months.
oh, sure, but I mean, you said that's gonna be in September. We've already set a date for it, that's fine. It's before October, which is the end of
But
the
the
fiscal year.
89ers parade
I know.
is a question mark.
Right.
But even
Everything,
if they do it in October, we still may use this year's funds and roll it over because they'll have another event. They would have a small event
In April.
and then a big event in April, so they would end up having two
I don't
events.
see the 89ers having a parade. No. Except on the anniversary day.
yeah.
What we
is-
suggested, and I don't know that they will be able to do it, is the Labor Day weekend, on the Saturday, you would have Red Brick Nights and a fireworks show. If there was a carnival available, the 89ers could look at maybe having a carnival in that weekend to recapture some of their lost revenue that they didn't capture in April.
But that's their expense.
Correct.
That
But there
doesn't come out
may be
of our budget.
supplements to that. We just don't know at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, we're discussing
That is-
something that we just don't know yet.
If they
Well, I
bring-
understand, but, you know, we're
I
talking
can't
about,
read through your
But if
math.
they bring a carnival down, that's their expense and
that's right.
we're not obligated in any
That's
way.
12 months, so it's like,
Or even then, we're talking about, you know, if they do something smaller, which is fine, then if it's gonna be smaller, then the amount of
Should
money
be
that they spend should
proportionally
be
proportionate.
proportionate to the size of the event versus the application that you fill out and all of that kind of stuff, that it needs to be captured. I'm just saying, going proactive, we've got 4 months. They've got 4 months to let us know.
Those are all things in the future, so Justin can work with you.
you got a lot of partnerships here that you're dealing with. I'm not sure you wanna get real rowdy. As far as the people you're dealing with, we don't wanna lose the Lazy E, we don't wanna lose any of the fireworks deal, any of that stuff.
No,
We're not
Yeah.
proposing that, we're just saying if they don't use the money.
I understand what you're saying, it might be kind of moot to even mess with it at this point, with 4 months left in the year.
I'm not saying mess with it, I'm saying to make sure the money is properly accounted for.
We have a fiduciary responsibility to do
Yes.
that.
I'm not saying cancel
And
anything.
you all do realize you're an advisory board?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I understand, but that's what I'm saying, is at the end of the day,
That's why we're an
we
advisory board.
we have allocated money that has not been spent, and then there is X number of days now left to make sure that it gets accounted for. And right now, we're looking at everything that hasn't happened with the money that we said things would happen. So what's going to happen?
And that would be rolled over into the next budget year, anything that's
So we
left
don't-
is next
But
budget.
that's what you're saying, we don't know. Nobody's gotten back with us on their intentions yet, on if they are even going to hold their
On some
events. So
items, yes.
I'm saying I think it's in the city's best interest to try to get an answer.
Why do we have to push it? I mean, it'll run its natural course. They'll either do an event or they won't do an event.
Especially when they're basing it on, you know, health
There's so many
health
unknowns with
statistics.
COVID-19.
Well, look
Why
at
are we gonna
statistics.
put demands on them? They'll either have an event or they won't have an event. It'll run its natural course.
And some of them are going through some considerable hardship not having their events,
I
so.
totally understand.
So when we get to the end of the year, those events that don't happen, they'll get money, then there'll be money that will be rolled over to next year.
I had a note, are we still on staff notes?
Board notes.
We're on board notes now?
Yes, or more copies.
Yeah, sorry. I would say we should reach out, about this dog show coming up.
Could you go ahead and tell, because you talked before people.
Oh, yeah, so, like everything else in the world, dog shows have been shut down for a long period of time. The Southern Handlers Association, which is a nonprofit association of professional dog show handlers, partnered with a company called Onofrio, which is a superintendent organization that runs dog shows. Onofrio is one of the larger dog show superintendent companies in the country, if not probably the biggest. They happen to be located out of Norman, Oklahoma, and or anyways, they got together with the AKC and 5 other dog clubs, kennel clubs, and very rapidly put a 4-day show together that is happening the 27th to the 30th at Lazy E of this month, June. And they have a lot of strict restrictions on face masks and all those things, and it's being called the Learning Cluster, and the AKC is looking at it as well as other dog show kennel clubs of, hey, what works, what doesn't work, how do we get back to some normalcy, because like I said, there haven't been any dog shows in the US for months. It was limited to 1,200 dogs, but I think it's a good opportunity for the Lazy E to show what they can handle. And hopefully we'll attract some more dog shows at the Lazy E throughout the year. But I mean, I know one of my dogs, we slipped in and somehow made it into part of that 1,200. But I mean, I know of handlers from Virginia and Maryland and people from California and all over the place coming to show their dogs. So I would say low-hanging fruit, we should reach out to the Lazy E and see if we can, what type of signage do we have up right now? Can we set up an unmanned table? I'm not suggesting that anyone needs to sit there. I don't think that would be following their COVID protocol to be able to do that, but it does seem like, hey, first event that's going to have, they are allowing spectators to attend the show, so they have very strict rules about what that looks like as well, and so.
Are they ticket events? Is it a ticketed event or?
Normally they are, yes. Yeah, almost all dog shows. If your dog's not in it, yes, you have to pay to come in the building. So I would assume, and this is interesting because normally a kennel club puts it on and they pay a fee. Well, Onofrio charges a fee to oversee all of the actual execution of the show, and that all the data gets inputted correctly with the AKC, so everyone knows who got points and who didn't. But at this show, Onofrio is overseeing all of it, and the clubs don't have any costs coming out. And so, anyways, it'll be interesting. I know that at least in the dog show world, there's a lot of people that are very excited that the show is happening and are coming here. And some of the top dogs in the country are going to be here. And if you're a weirdo like me and you like dog shows, then you're also excited about it.
How many days does that run?
4 days. And I know it's split, so I'll say this. We lost out. That Hilton right off 35 was the Hilton that got the hotel for the show.
Covell.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Because I had some friends who called me and said they were coming in from out of town for the show, and they were looking at one of the Guthrie hotels and that one, and they said, well, that one's, it's $20 cheaper a night because it's part of the room block for the show. The Hilton was. And he said, is it that much further? And I had to be honest and say, well, from the La Quinta or that one, you're looking about the same, it's about the same drive. And he
If
said,
you have 1,200 dogs, could equate to 2,400 people. They're not all gonna fit in Edmond.
right. Right.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but hopefully we should see an influx in hotel on that, I would suspect. There is some RV, I do know some pro handlers are bringing their RVs down so they can just stay on the grounds. There's not any inside grooming space at this show to try to keep people outside. And so I think you'll probably see more people bringing RVs than normal so that they can have their own area for setup and grooming and getting their dogs ready. For me, I'm just gonna get my dog ready in my house and then drive to
Well, that's probably on the Lazy grounds, right?
They will,
have
yes.
so many
Yep.
dogs for about
Yep.
700.
Other board comments?
Leroy's like, I want out of here.
Alright, if you have an unmanned booth, can you have like brochures for Guthrie?
You don't even have to see his
Or
face.
like send them in?
We have booths out there for almost, all the big events, so that's nothing new. But we'll just do it for the dog show, we've been doing it for rodeos year after year, so.
Just won't be
Yeah.
okay.
A lot of these things you can take up with Justin at the next meeting. Was not able to be here tonight. And I wasn't going to chair the meeting, I didn't think, because I just thought the chairman or vice chairman was going to be here, so I'm just substituting. So,
Thank you for substituting.
if nothing else, we're adjourned.
Thank you, sir.
I'll say one thing right after.
Yep.
Any volunteers